Hi guys, it's Jake here at Canadian Cutting Edge, and today I've got a nice big folder for you. This is the F740, the new brother of the G740. This guy is a little bit lighter and a couple other changes as well. I reviewed the G40, I think a little over a year ago, maybe just under a year ago. I can't remember exactly. I forgot to look up the date. Anyhow, the Omni springs on this axis lock are fairly stiff right now out of the box. I've used this thing a bit. I've carried it, and I've used the edge and stuff. I haven't done a lot of breaking in of the pivot, so the springs and stuff have not had a bit of a workout yet, so it's still quite stiff. I tend to think that's probably a good thing. It's better than having the springs too loose, because you can always make them a little bit looser, either through some extra tasks. I've got a video on how you can do that if you really need to. But generally, you just work them for a little while and they tend to get a little bit looser and a little bit more comfortable so that you can easily flip them down and flip it up like that. And so if I can do it already, it'll be easy to do it after it's had a little bit of a work in. So what we have is a made in China knife, which Ganzo has. Ganzo Firebird line, so you got the Firebird logo. Full flat grind on 440C stainless steel, G10 handle scales, and and that's about it. Except for this is probably the longest standard folder that Ganzo makes right now. This is for the person who wants a big knife with a lot of reach. It fits people's hands with medium hands. I've got large right on the borderline of extra large. That's between like 10 and 11 in European sizes. And so if you need reach, I can hold it back here and ignore this forward choil, or this front choil, not forward choil, front choil. And you got a lot of reach and good leverage on it. You can stick your thumb out on top of there and it ends up right on that jimping and use the knife that way. Or I can sneak up a little bit and use it that way. Plus, it's not really a sneak up choil there. But as you can see, I can safely get my finger in there if I want to do some nice delicate work. So this thing's got loads of options. Somebody with fatter fingers than me, you won't be able to do that last step safely. You might get yourself cut right on the end there. But this knife is a knife with lots of options, and it's fairly plain. There's nothing splashy or flashy about it. It's just a functional knife that's going to do what you want it to do, and you're going to have a good time doing the work that you need to do. Pocket clip, tip up, right, left, and comfortable handle. So now that I've told you almost everything, let's get this thing into the tabletop mode, and we're going to take a closer look at this knife. Stick around. So there's the knife on this table. Hopefully this table doesn't give too much glare and everything. It's what I have access to right now instead of my normal blue background. Here's a copy of the G740 that I did the older previous review on. And as you can see, it's a very similar knife. We do have a couple little changes, and I don't know if it's just this specific knife or not, but take a close look at these blades. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but this guy looks like it's a little bit less of a belly. It sweeps back a little bit first compared to this one. And maybe a close-up of those two bellies will help. If I try to line them up like that, it's really hard to line them up just perfect. You can see the one on the bottom, the different shape of the cutting edge right there. It's got a bit of a rounder belly. So the old G740 has more of a spear point shape, where this side of the blade, the cutting edge, matches the drop point there a little bit more, a little bit pointier. And the newer one is a little bit more rounder on the belly. Some of the other changes are same thing on some of the other access locks between the G series and the F series. Notice how long the access hole is, and it's shorter on the new one, so the throw is not quite as far. And skeletonization on the inside. And I'll show you pictures of the inside. I'll do that right now. You can see the pictures of the inside. And those are the major changes. There's almost nothing else that's different about it. The place where they lock up is very much the same on both of these. There you go. Close to my top finger here, you can see that wear point on the top of that steel in the middle. They both are very much the same. That is for how far the axis lock slides up onto the tang of the blade. That's what you're seeing right there, that little bit of a dirty spot on the steel. That's the axis lock arm sliding up on the steel. Very much the same on both of these. That's certainly adequate amount of engagement, and lockup is rock solid. Very, very good. There's no blade play side to side, up and down from the factory. I've not had to make any adjustment on the pivot at all, and everything's nice and snug and working just like it should. Blade alignment is perfect, just like it should be when it's closed. Let's talk about some of the dimensions here. We've got a cutting edge of 9.27 centimeters. That's 3.65 inches. Blade lengths from the tip of the blade to the closest point anywhere on the handle, 9.33 centimeters. That's 3.91 inches. Just shy of 4 inches on that blade length. The blade thickness, and I measured it right close to this thumb stud right here, and that is 3.65 millimeters. That's 0.144 inches. The thickness of the edge behind the grind, I was actually surprised. I was expecting it to be thicker than it is. But when I felt it, it felt pretty good. This is 0.57 millimeters, 0.0225 inches. Let's talk about the handle sizes and things like that. So the handle length is 13.26 centimeters. That's 5.22 inches. The grip area, so be starting at this finger choil to, just below the lanyard hole right there. 10.2 centimeters, right around 4 inches even. The handle thickness, not counting the pocket clip, is 1.34 centimeters. That's 0.528 inches. It's just a little bit over half an inch thick. The handle depth, so this way, sort of the average, and I measure sort of in this choil and in this area here. It's roughly 2.6 centimeters, just over an inch, just barely. So very much an inch for the handle depth right there. And the total length of this knife from tip to tail is 23.2 centimeters. That's 9.13 inches. So a little over a 9-inch knife in your hands right here. Like I said earlier, this is the largest Ganzo knife that they're currently making. How much does it weigh? It's 148 grams, which is 5.2 ounces. And the previous version, the G version, was just like 0.4 of an ounce heavier. I really wish they could have got this under 5 ounces, and I believe they could have easily made it 4.9 ounces. You saw the pictures of the skeletonization and the handle. Those liners could have been made lighter. They could have made a whole extra hole in them. They could have made like 4 holes, and they could have made larger holes on the skeletonization, and they could have got this thing probably just under or just at 5 ounces. How much does this knife cost? Is the regular price for this in US dollars? It's $18.23. In Canadian dollars, it's $23.50. In euros, it's 15.5. And in pounds sterling, it's 13.72. And there's a little bit of shipping to add on to that. I'll just go over this knife one more time. We've got a drop point, full flat grind, really nice sharpener's choil space right here. You can even get your finger in there. We've got a thumb stud that's far enough back so that when you're cutting through stuff, it's not going to catch on. That's a really good thing. We've got some jimping on the spine right there, and it's nice and gentle kind of jimping on the end of the handle here and stuff. Gives you good purchase without getting hot on the thumb. We've got an axis lock, which is totally functional and it works very well. We've got pivot screws that are free turning, so you're going to have to be able to hold this knife in something. I've got a video on a small vise that you can get from GearBest that I use almost every day. and especially for a knife like this. So, the table vise will hold your knife. It's a tabletop vise, like for inside tabletops. It's a really, really nice little tool. And then you can put screwdrivers on either side and do the work that you need to do. It's very tricky to hold a knife and try to use 2 screwdrivers at the same time. We've got open pillar construction. We've got these really nice sort of hourglass stepped shape pillars for the open pillar construction right there. And there's just 2 of them. That's all it needs. We've got G10 on the handle scales, and I'm not sure if it's available in all 3 colors right now, but the 3 main colors are black, green, and orange that they do. And then sometimes you can get carbon fiber versions, and sometimes they've got wood versions. But this knife, I think, only comes in those, and sometimes you've got camo versions as well. But I think this one is just the base 3 colors of black, green, and orange. We've got a pocket clip with a spoon shape on it. Very, very functional. Slides in and out of the pocket very well. But you've got a fair bit of knife showing when it's out of your pocket. Almost an inch, just a little over 3/4 of an inch. Almost 2 centimeters of knife sticking out of your pocket. And I'll show you what that looks like in just a little while. Nice big lanyard hole there, so you can put in, 9-strand paracord very easily. You can feed through there, or some other kind of fabric that you want to use for your lanyard. It'll take something quite big. It's a nice big hole. And then you've got the handle shape here that, a swoop down the back, just sort of fits in the palm of your hand there. Index finger choil, and then the rest of your hand. Very simplistic kind of shape, and yet it's very, very comfortable in hand. You've got nice rounded chamfering all around the outside of the handles, and the texture on the G10 is just enough to give you a little bit of grip without being overly aggressive. Torques everywhere. Very functional knife. I'm getting the for my TS Prof sharpening system, my K02 sharpening system, I'm going to be getting the attachment for sharpening full flat grinds. It's got a different kind of clamping system that clamps on really well. Or you can just sort of take the knife apart and clamp it on the end of the handle on the tang, like I show in my recurve video, which I actually did for this particular grind. And I've sharpened it already, and you can see that nice grind on there. And 440C takes a good sharpening, and it lasts for quite a while. Just need to strop it every once in a while to keep maintaining its performance. Let me show you how well it cuts. We've got 4 strands of paracord here. Just zips through that, no problem. We can slice with this knife, and it cuts no problem. We can chop with this knife, and it cuts no problem. And you can do it hard. You're not going to hurt the edge if you're doing it on wood. Really, really good. This is a 7-strand paracord. Cuts it very, very easily. And it cuts paper very well. You can get fine cuts. It curls up nicely. You can cut straight down the end of paper. I don't want to cut this too hard because this is my note page, and I don't want to cut it all up because when I go to edit my video, I'll need my notes. Yeah, it just cuts right in, no problem. It's a good steel. I like it. Here's some newsprint, and it just cuts newsprint very, very well. No problem at all. So cutting something really light like that, if your knife does a good job with that, you know that you've got a sharp knife. I mentioned how far that sticks out of your pocket, and there you can get a good look at it. You've got that almost an inch sticking out. Some people really dislike that much knife sticking out. So if you don't like that much, don't buy the knife, right? One thing I do like is sometimes I do like this, especially if I'm wearing a coat or something in the wintertime. I like having more sticking out because my coat's probably over this. And I want to be able to move my coat out of the way and just reach in and grab it easily. And sometimes if it's a really deep carry knife and it's way down there, it just makes it that much harder to get at it and try to pull it out. So there are times when I prefer having a more knife exposed out of the pocket like this, and so I'm glad that you can get knives either way. And this one's pretty nice for the way it is. You just buy what you like. If this isn't your cup of tea, don't buy it. There's a whole lot of other knives out there that are good for your money, and Ganzo's got a good variety of them. I don't know what knife Ganzo copied for this knife, or if they designed this in-house. I really don't know. If you know of a knife that looks almost identical, so not just close, but almost identical to this, please let me know, and so I can check out to see if it's actually a copy of that knife or not. Things that I wouldn't mind changing. I wouldn't mind changing to a little bit deeper carry. Not too much, but a little bit deeper carry instead of this where the pocket clip is. And a little bit more skeletonizing, so they could have got it under 5 ounces. That would have been really nice. Those are nitpicky things, very minor, at least for me. So if you like this knife, please consider using my links in the description below so that you can buy one. Chances are very low that you're going to get it before Christmas now. It's just we're too close to Christmas, but that doesn't mean you can't buy a knife for yourself, right? The thumb stud is very easy to access. You don't need any more cutout down here. It's very easy just to flip that out. Yeah, that's one thing maybe. I was thinking about a flipper version of this knife. I think it'd be nice to get a flipper version of this knife, or maybe a liner lock version, maybe a frame lock version. I don't know. I think Ganzo overdoes it with too many axis lock knives. I wish that they would do more knives with different types of locking systems and leaving everything else, the same dimensions. That would be a really good thing. So there you go. There's your little bit of a review of this knife. It's not a fabulous knife. This is a working knife. So if that's what you're looking for, I highly recommend this knife. Oh, by the way, washers. It's got one nylon washer and one bronze washer. Modern nylon washers are actually very good. Do I like bronze washers better? Probably, but not by much. Maybe 3, 4, 5% better. It's just the way it is. 20 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have hated, the white plastic washers that they made back then, or the other colors, whatever plastic washers they had. But the modern nylon washer that they have these days, no problem with it. Nothing major negative to say about it at all. Thank you so much for watching my video. Thanks for liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. Those things all make a difference. If you want to consider becoming a Patreon supporter, please find the link in the description below. Thank you so much for all the help that you guys give me, of any kind at all. Moral support as well. Thank you very much. Remember, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.